Hi, my name is Mary Truitt, and I'm a past life regressionist. I was trained personally by both Dolores Cannon and Brian Weiss, and I like to come on here and tell you stories about my sessions. So, one of the questions people ask me constantly is, can I come in with a specific problem and can it be addressed? So, this session was like probably the best example I have ever experienced in which a problem was addressed and released. So the person who came to see me was kind of agoraphobic. He didn't really like to even leave his bedroom, and he just wanted some help with that. Like, why don't I want to leave my bedroom? So they showed him 3 lifetimes, and in the first lifetime, he was a kind of a warlord. I think we kind of figured out it was during the time of Genghis Khan, maybe. And he was a warlord who was much older, and he had relinquished his power to his son. And the place where they lived was a kind of a fortress, but lots of small tents and things. And there were sort of hidey holes to go out in. And a big battle was coming. And his son said to him, "You need to hide. I want you to go someplace and hide, and don't come out until I come to get you, or one of my trusted men comes to get you." And so he scurried into the hole and, put the cover over the top of himself. And he listened to this battle go on for 3 days, night and day, just killing, screaming, yelling, whatever. And after 3 days, there was dead silence. And he waited and he waited and he waited, and nobody came to get him. And so finally, when it had been quiet for so long, he thought the dust must have cleared. He came out of his hiding. And the moment he came out of his hiding, one of the enemy was standing right next to the door and just drove a sword straight into his belly. And he died. The second lifetime they showed us, it was in the Caribbean, and somewhere in the Caribbean. And he was a wonderful sort of young man who had a family, he had children, and he was in his canoe. And it was a beautiful, beautiful scene. He sort of looked off into the distance and saw this sort of straw hut where his wife and children were standing outside playing. And he was going around, there was sort of an archipelago, so a lot of little teeny tiny islands. And he was going around in his canoe to each of the little islands and picking up coconuts and loading them into his canoe. And he was a huge, dark-skinned man with a bald head. I guess part of their ritual was they shaved their head. And so he had a peaceful life collecting these coconuts. And the part they showed us was really cool. There was a huge rainstorm, and the rain poured down for a very short amount of time. And then this brilliant sunshine came out, and he saw a rainbow over his house, and it made him very, very happy. And so he's going along. And then all of a sudden, off in the distance, he spots a ship with like masts and, sails, and he's describing it, and he doesn't know what it is exactly. So he decides he wants to get closer to take a look at what this thing is, this enormous boat. And as he begins to row towards the boat, a great big cannonball comes and kills him instantly by shooting him in the torso. And so then at that point, we went to a third lifetime. And in this lifetime, he was a jellyfish. And he loved being a jellyfish. He floated in the ocean. And he was like, "Oh, sometimes I go way down deep into the bottom of the water. And it's very chilly and feels nice." And he said, "And then sometimes I like to float up to the surface and feel the sun on my body." And his whole life was sort of just going up and down, depending on the tides and depending on the way the water was going. And one day, he was floating in the water with the sunshine, and it was lovely. And a great big net came along and scooped him up, threw him on the ship, on the floor of the ship, and he dried up and died. And so when we got to his higher self and to his spirit guides to talk, they were like, yeah, he's had this pattern his whole life where every time he came out of hiding, it killed him. And so that doesn't need to ever happen again. He's just carrying that energy, and we can clear that energy. And so it was really beautiful. And it was sort of showed how these stories repeat themselves in our lifetimes, and coming to a session can clear it across all the lifetimes. So that was that. It was great, great session. So I hope that is interesting to you, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.